Welcome to the Secret Sex Lives of Muslim Women, the show where we have unfiltered conversations about sex, identity, and everything in between with fellow Muslim women. I'm your host, Salma Hindi. Today's guest is an anonymous Muslim woman whom we're calling Sasha. She is a brilliant Iranian-American woman from the Midwest, but when she was younger, she struggled with feeling like the odd one out. And trigger warning for our listeners, we will be discussing instances of assault during this episode. Welcome, Sasha. So happy to have you on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me, Salma.
Yes. Let's start by talking about your upbringing. Can you tell us what it was like growing up Iranian-American in the Midwest?
Yeah, so I grew up pretty much in my school system, I was pretty much one of the only Muslim kids in the whole district. And my family's not practicing. They come from Iran. My parents don't like religion. They feel that religion destroyed their country.
Would you say this is a common sentiment among your community, among the Iranian American Muslim community?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I would definitely say so. We do still have some people who practice. I mean, hijab is extremely rare in the Iranian diaspora just because of the way that it's imposed back home. My mom was Muslim, practicing, would do namaz, wouldn't allow me to eat pork up until maybe middle school. And I think that was her way of being able to still find community. She felt very much like an outsider. She's from the capital, Tehran, which is 12 million people. Now all of a sudden she's in this small farm town in the Midwest. And, so I even fasted with her one year. So I identified as Muslim for the maybe first 12, 13 years of my life. I still culturally identify as Muslim, politically, because of, one thing with my parents is even though they don't like, Islam, they're not bigoted against Muslims. So there is that, which is unfortunately, sometimes you will see that in the community, but no, I have practicing Muslim family back in Iran. They're very loving people. I love them more than anything. And so that's going to play a part later, I want to say, actually.
Right.
But yeah, so, growing up, even when my mom started distancing herself from Islam, so growing up in the Midwest, everyone was white pretty much, except the Muslims we knew. And then we would go back to Iran every year. So I was still exposed to Muslim culture, hijab, we would wear hijab in the house when my male cousins were present, out of respect for my grandmother, who's very religious.
You would wear it in the house where? In America or in Iran?
Oh, in Iran.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, I've always, Islam wasn't foreign to me. It was just, again, the Iranian relationship with Islam is complicated because of, what the Iranian government imposes on people, and culturally, even, secular Iranians still see virginity, secular Muslim men, some see virginity as still virtuous and important. So, but, basically growing up, it's like I had two lives. One when I was, with the white kids at school, one when I would visit Iran. And then my parents were also very fiercely Iranian. So we would always speak Farsi in the house, listen to Iranian music, celebrate all the Iranian holidays, eat Iranian food. So we didn't lose our roots in that way.
You still practiced your culture.
Yeah, and I also never had a negative view of Islam. Again, I was privileged to live in the West. I loved I had Palestinian and Lebanese friends. I'd go to the mosque with them. I'd go to halaqas with them. And I had fun with them. It was cool. I always identified as Muslim, even though I wasn't a hijabi, even though I wasn't really practicing. One thing that, I was taught to do ghusl. Ghusl, I remember that. Once I got my period very early when I was 10, and my therapist says that it's because 9/11 happened, and that caused my body to go through stress.
That's crazy.
That age, yeah. And also my parents were fighting a lot growing up. Every other year.
Really? So she thinks it could have been stress that brought on your period early.
Yeah, wow. Every other year they would threaten divorce. There would get to points where the silence in the house would be so deafening and they would not.
Can I ask, how many, do you have siblings?
I have one sibling with special needs.
Okay.
which again caused another strain on our family.
Right.
But doing great now and all that.
So you grew up basically with very culturally rich parents who didn't practice religion, kind of had I like to say, Iranians' relationship with their government is like my relationship with my father. They religion was used against them in an abusive way, right?
Yes.
And so your parents not practicing, but still very cultural, and then you grew up around white people, and so you code switched basically. So if your parents, as someone who had really religious parents, and I blame their strictness and conservatism on their religion, what were your parents' rules around sex and dating, and did they teach you anything about it?
So when my mom was a practicing Muslim, I mean, my dad would just not talk about it. Yeah.
Right.
I remember she taught me ghusl once I got my period. And she said, you're a Muslim girl, after having sex and after having your period, you do ghusl in the shower. I don't know if Arabs call it the same thing. Ghusl?
Yeah, we call it ghusl. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
It's basically, for anybody listening, it's like a spiritual Islamic ritual of how to cleanse your body, both physically, like it's a hygienic practice, but then also there are spiritual aspects to it where you can say certain prayers. And you're meant to do this, after a week of your period or after having sex, so that you could be, I guess, purified enough to like pray again and to practice again.
Yeah. So there was, that, and I remember, I want to say middle school or, when sex education in schools, they didn't have a problem with that. So I wasn't allowed to date until, my parents always said, maybe 17 is what my mom said. My mom tried actually to get, assimilate. She grew up in a secular family. My dad grew up in a religious family. So I think that dynamic is a little important. But she was like, go to homecoming, go to prom. And I remember my dad on my very first homecoming made her chaperone prom, or homecoming. Because he's like, they know from the movies they've seen.
Right.
They were scared.
Right.
But my mom she would have been okay with me having a boyfriend. So she says, having a boyfriend at, my senior year of high school, if it was just to watch a movie and maybe kiss, but I wasn't allowed to date or go with a boy as a date to any of these dances until my senior year of high school.
Right.
Weird.
But then they knew you were going to the dance, and they knew that you were going with a guy.
Yeah, because I was not going to like parties. I wasn't cool enough to be invited to those parties. The high school parties. It was a dance at school.
Right.
They always have parent chaperones. I was a good kid too. I wasn't drinking. I didn't do drugs. I had good grades. Again, had never kissed a boy. But yeah, they were fine with me going to dances and even taking the pictures, like the cute little prom pictures or whatever. When it came, but no relationship. My mom would be like, oh, it's senior year of high school, it's okay. But again, that's another thing. I was also, I don't want to say an ugly duckling, but I had acne, I had braces. So I wasn't and when you're a person of color in the Midwest, you're not attractive to people. So I always wished I was blonde, straight hair, blue. My best friend, blonde hair, light skin, green eyes, all the boys would die for her. So I just got used to being, never asked out.
Right.
So it wasn't even an issue, because it's like, okay, I'm allowed, but nobody really whatever.
Right.
When my mom and I would talk about sex and stuff, she was very much, freshman year, I remember actually, was when she really hunkered down on me. She was not chill my freshman year of high school. She was very scared of like teenage pregnancy and the stuff they've seen in those Lifetime movies, and for her, she really drilled into my brain that I should wait until marriage because your vagina is like new, you're like a treasure, these girls who sleep around, they're like trash, no man will respect them.
She said that to you? Your vagina is new and you're...
Wow. It's like
new. This was when you were 14, when you entered the 9th grade in freshman?
Yeah, okay. When I entered 9th grade. Yeah, she would be like, think about it. Do you want a chocolate that's cheap, or do you want a chocolate that's like wrapped in fancy wrapper and at the top shelf that's hard to get? And on top of that, my freshman year, I had sex education. Now, this is the Midwest. This is under the Bush administration. This is a very conservative Christian time. Like at that time, I believe the Bush administration was actively trying to put abstinence back in schools, and abstinence education was a big thing. And I went to public school. That's not okay, by the way. That's not allowed. But my sex education teacher was an old man, very Christian, would actively call girls who had sex hoes, would,
Whoa.
he'd be like, imagine waiting until your wedding night. Imagine creating a baby that night. What an amazing experience. And, he'd show us videos about if you have sex before marriage, you will get pregnant and die. Mean Girls coded. But literally, it would be like, you're going to get AIDS, you're going to get an STD. He showed us, there's this speaker, her name's Becky something, I don't remember her name. She's from West Virginia, but he'd show us a video of this speaker. She basically would say things like, if your mom puts you on birth control, she hates you. Sex is what brings us close together. Basically preaching abstinence only. And this is not, I don't believe that's legal in a public school setting, but still, the Midwest is very Christian influenced, or was at the time. Both of my best friends wore purity rings. I found out later one of them was lying. She was sleeping with her boyfriend, but she was being very performative in front of us. Like, we'd be watching a movie and there would be a girl in a bikini and she'd be like, you could never pay me enough money to wear a bikini on camera. And, I even went to church with her for her youth group, and my parents were actually cool with it. They said, well, yeah, it's important to learn about the world around you. Be educated about what other people think. And so I was under a lot of different influences when it came to sex and relationships. But in high school, I very much also was a holier than thou cunt. And I also
strongly relate. I have a sticker on my laptop that says recovering self-righteous cunt.
I need that.
Yeah, I designed it, so I'll give you one. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. But I remember too, as a 14, 15-year-old girl, when I'd hear about a girl having sex, I'd be like, oh my God, what a slut. Like, wow, nobody's going to want to marry them. I can't wait till my wedding night. It's going to be perfect. The guy's going to he's going to take my virginity, and that's going to mean he's going to do everything for me. That's going to mean, so that was very much the mindset I was in.
Right.
I even asked my mom if I could get a purity ring, because that was another thing. In my high school, if you wore a purity ring, if you were known to be a practicing Christian, you got the respect of the school. You got the respect of the teachers.
It's so
and I was like, well, Mom,
crazy, because you're just describing like the community that I grew up in, like where it's purity culture and performance culture is very championed. And oh my God, Sasha, I remember the first time I found out that a hijabi was having sex. I think like my stomach I was way too old. I was like in my late 20s, like when I realized, some people be lying. Some people be wearing the hijab, they be hijabi influencers, and then they be giving blowjobs. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I was shocked.
I was going to say, those were my friends. They were wearing purity rings, but they were having sex. Right. They were taking it in the ass. They were...
So you grew up around that, and you went all throughout high school, which you reminded me of Taylor Tomlinson, this comedian. She has a bit where she says she grew up really religious Christian, and she was also a virgin for a long time and a late bloomer. And she says she bought into it, like that she wasn't going to have sex and all that stuff. But then she's like, it's not like she was getting anything anyways. Okay, nobody even tried to jiggle the handle of her door, because she was also, which I relate to as well, I was also friend zoned my whole life. So that must have taken a toll on your self-esteem though, right? Especially because you look different than everybody else there, if white is the default.
Yes, I would say a little bit less in high school, because again, I was like, well, I'm waiting for marriage. Right. It's not like I'm going to sleep with these guys. It did take a toll on me, but I also knew that high school is just high school. I am going to end up in LA. College, it started taking a toll on me.
And why? Was college when you decided you wanted to become sexually active?
No, college was when I was exposed to a lot more people. Because listen, my high school's 1,500 people, which is kind of big, but still, they're all white. They're all, my university was very different. And I just wasn't getting the love that I desired. Nobody was asking me out. Because I mean, listen, I knew a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, like in high school, were not getting asked out. And I always knew high school is just not that important.
Right.
It's about doing well in school to be able to, your future.
Right.
But then it became college, and I'm like, okay, can I at least get a boyfriend? Can I have a kiss? Like,
right.
you know, I mean, I'm waiting for marriage to have sex, but can I, you know, I'd like to experience some things.
Right.
And it did start to hunker down on my self-esteem. Now, at that time, I started hanging out with there was a Muslim community at my university. I loved them to pieces. Non-judgmental, didn't care that I didn't wear hijab. And they understood the dynamic of, you know, my parents thinking about Islam, you know, the Iranian government. They understood that. But I would hang out with the Muslim community a lot. That made things easier. And then simultaneously, my dad is like, you can be friends with them. They're nice, but just don't put pictures with all these Muslim people. Don't associate so much. You know, I remember because at one point I was even going to like Ramadan, like to the mosque. I wore a hijab and manto to get into the mosque. And my dad is like, can't you be more progressive? You know, there are women in Iran who can't sing. So it's funny, you and I kind of had the opposite experience,
right.
You know, whereas I was actually trying to lean into my Muslimness, and my parents were like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know,
right.
like, while on top of that, still carrying very toxic views about love and sex.
Right.
And so I started getting really annoyed because it's like, you know, listen, at least Muslims are, consistent when it comes to that. You guys are just all over the place.
Right,
like,
right.
Oh, you don't want people to, yeah.
Like if you want me to be
anyway.
progressive, then you should let me like have a boyfriend and not put virginity on such a pedestal. Okay, so talk to me. So the reason why I started bothering you in college was not because you wanted to become sexually active. You were still waiting for marriage, but you were ready to begin the romance process and you wanted to have a partner, right? So did you get a boyfriend?
Exactly.
And what happened?
I got a boyfriend the summer before my senior year of college. He was from Iran, from a small village. Grew up in a religious family, somewhat. Not really religious himself, but yes and no. Not like enforcing hijab or anything like that. But again, a lot of Iranians, it's like maybe your parents wear a hijab, this, that, the. It's again complicated. We're a hodgepodge. Anyway, but he starts showing me all this.
You felt like he was compatible with you in the beginning.
I actually had a crush on his lab partner, and his lab partner had a crush on my best friend, and they ended up hooking up.
Whoa!
And so I just fell deeper and deeper into this low self-esteem. Wow, I'm almost 21. No one is really gonna. I mean, I've never been asked out my whole life. I may as well just take what I can get. So this guy starts showing me attention. I'm not attracted to him. And we start, dating. And that's just because I wanted a boyfriend. I got my first kiss, didn't enjoy it, but I was like, fuck, I'm almost 21. Like, come on. And we end up, he ends up moving away. And we're in a long distance relationship. That's how low self-esteem I had, to be in a long distance relationship for 2 years with someone I'm not even attracted to, all to say I've had a boyfriend.
Right.
Now, on top of that, my parents are freaking out. My parents are upset because my dad is well known in the community as a professor, and the whole Iranian community knows him. All the Iranians who come from abroad know him.
Right.
And my mom starts freaking out. Everyone's going to think you're not a virgin. You're going to ruin your family's reputation, your reputation. And this is when I start pushing back and saying, I'm 21 years old, and then I start kind of playing with the idea of, maybe I don't even want to wait until marriage to have sex, because I was kind of getting exposed to new things too, because at one point I had a friend from Iran, again, religious family. She herself was religious, not a hijabi, but religious. And she was 35 at the time, never had a boyfriend, never had a kiss. And again, like me, an ugly duckling. And I just saw the way she was treated. I saw the way she would act when she had a crush. And I'm like, dude, I don't want that to be me. Maybe I should have sex before marriage. And I just started kind of slowly unlearning. But I knew I didn't want it to be the guy that I was with, because I was not attracted to him, even though he started to pressure me. And so when I turned 21, again, goody two-shoes, didn't start drinking till I turned 21, he would come to visit me, and I would lie to my parents and sneak out with him. And I would drink alcohol. We would drink together. And when I got drunk, I lost control. And that allowed him to... So the first time, let me backtrack. The first time, we'd been dating for a few months. This was his first time back visiting from Virginia. He's like, hey, let's go to my friend Ali's house. So we do. And as soon as we say hi to Ali, he gets up and says, oh my God, you guys, my friend just got into a car accident. I have to go help, but I'll be back in a couple hours. He gets up and he leaves. My boyfriend gets up and locks the door. And I'm like, what's going on? And he like demands that I take my shirt off. And basically I was like resisting, but he forced me to. And I got really upset by that.
How did he force you to?
He just like took it off of me. And he just like basically was like, I finally just did it. And he's like, I know you're scared, but it's okay. And I just felt like, I think he sucked on my boobs. I don't really remember, but I just felt so gross and disgusted. I remember scratching myself in the shower with my, what do you call it?
The loofah. The loofah, yeah.
Yeah. And I just felt so dirty. But then when I went home, my parents would be like, were you out with this boy? Everyone's going to think you're a whore. And I'm like, no, it's my body. I'm 21. And so that psychologically, I was like, well, I can't break up with him because that means my parents won and that they're owning my body.
Right.
So that starts a cycle of 2 years of him coming every few months, us getting drunk. He didn't penetrate me, but he did oral sex and I did oral sex. And, you know, I just kept wishing it was with someone that I liked. And I gained weight. I gained like 20 pounds because of it. I was miserable. I hated my state. I hated my hometown. I wanted to get to LA. I wanted to pursue the entertainment industry. And my parents were also against that. And so, I just hid it from them. I applied. I got into a grad school in LA. They ended up supporting me. Yeah, I was just so miserable. And I'm like, I need to get out of here. I can't waste away. There was even a point where I was considering marrying this guy just to get out of my parents' house.
Right.
And anyway, so I do all the work. I take 1 year of grad school in the university with a scholarship, and I apply to a bunch of UCLA colleges or a bunch of LA colleges. I get in. They support me. I move out, and I remember my my boyfriend at the time being so upset, like, you're already far enough. What am I going to do? And I was worried. I was even like, oh my God, like, I might not ever find someone out in LA, but who knows? Whatever. We end up breaking up a few months after I move out, and I just didn't even feel anything. I wasn't crying. I wasn't upset. But then I was like, I'm ready. And so I pull out my phone and I download Tinder.
Okay, wait. So, because you just shared something really, really heavy with us, right? That you were basically in a sexually abusive relationship with this guy for 2 years because of you felt like very low self-esteem. You felt like this is the best you can get, but you also felt like you knew that you didn't like him and that you deserved better, but you also felt like you were trying to escape your family, like you were trying to escape now to controlling situations. I'm curious to know, like, what was going on when you would talk about scrubbing your body with the loofah, scratching yourself. It's because of the shame that you felt afterwards, because of you're like self-punishing in a way. Did you tell your parents what happened with your boyfriend at any point, and what happened when you did?
I didn't tell anyone until 3 years after my relationship with that guy ended.
Okay.
And I remember my mom and I got into a fight about something, I don't know what it was, who it was. She was calling my ex a villager, this, that, the other. I don't remember what it was. And I remember bringing that up to her, and she was like, your dad said not to date that guy. He knew what kind of guy he was. We were trying to protect you. And I'm like, it's not my fault he assaulted me. And she's like, yes, it is. You allowed him to. And that was her knee-jerk reaction. And I remember her coming home and she was upset. And then we didn't really talk about it again.
So it was just that one time.
Yeah. And I remember also, ironically, when I was dating my ex, we visited where my mom's side lives, not in Iran, but somewhere else. And they're a very European my aunts are married to European guys. They raise their children differently. They speak Farsi, but they're not really Iranian. And I remember my mom trying to show off for them, like, because one of them was like, yeah, my 16-year-old daughter, she's flirting with this guy. My mom smacks me and goes, do you see? She could get a boyfriend. You couldn't find anyone? And I was like, well, I did find one, but you don't like the fact that he's from Iran, but despite the fact that this is whatever I can get. So it was just layers and layers and layers on top of my body, my sexuality, my autonomy. And I just felt like I was drowning at some point.
And it's so contradictory, right? Like, you can't even get a guy, and then it's like they get a whiff of you trying to get a guy. You're a slut for trying to get a guy. Like, which one is it?
Exactly. We're not Muslim. We hate Islam, but also be a virgin.
Right.
Be all these things that the Iranian government brainwashes young women to be.
Right.
It was like a walking contradiction. And then you got the media on top, at that time, Britney, Christina, the sexualized virgin pop stars, and you've got you've got the Midwest and purity rings. And it was just a hodgepodge of confusion. I mean, I started therapy when I first moved out to LA after an incident. Back to Tinder.
Yeah, back to Tinder. Yeah. So you're in LA at this point. You're still a virgin, although you've been assaulted by your ex.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, Tinder, and I wasn't going on Tinder to hook up. I was going to find my Prince Charming. I thought, I'll find my husband, a boyfriend on here. So I start swiping. I start going on dates with guys. And then some of them kiss me on the first date. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, whatever. But then a lot of them push for more. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I'm not going to sleep with you on the first date or the second date or the third date, And when it came out that I was, for example, I'll never forget this one traumatizing date I went on with this guy who, Iranian-American, took me out to dinner, and then we're making out, and he really pushed to go back to my dorm room. And I just said out loud, because I thought it was cool to say you're a virgin. I thought, because my mom was always like, you're a virgin, you're a jewel. I was like, oh, well, I'm a virgin, I won't do that. And he goes, oh, do you do other things? And I was like, I mean, not right away. And he's like, I think I'm more experienced than you. And I said, do you want to be friends? He said, not really. And then he drops me off in front of my dorm and drives off. And I remember bawling my eyes out. Aww. And just all the guilt and the shame of just everything over the years. And I'm like, so what is it then? Am I supposed to be a virgin? Am I not supposed to be a virgin? And I end up actually telling my mom, like, haha, mom, this happened, LOL, because we had a close relationship. And she's like, oh my God, he could lie to the community and say he slept with you. And I'm like, you know what, Mom, I'm just going to go to therapy. I don't want to talk about this.
Oh my God, yeah. Anymore. I don't think it's safe, I mean, at least from what I'm hearing, for you to talk about your mother, about your sex life details anymore, because I mean, she reminds me of my mother, where it's like anything I say causes anxiety and causes panic, and then the knee-jerk reaction is to blame me for being insufficient, problematic, imperfect, and I am the reason why I'm unhappy, for instance, whereas there's so many other factors. And I really strongly relate to that. Like, I am a recent non-virgin, still very inexperienced, low body count compared to especially where I'm living in New York City, and everybody here. I had a friend tell me she wants to sleep with 100 people this summer. I said, I'm stressed out even hearing that. Like, I can't even be around. Yeah. I would said, thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna avoid you this summer, because I can't even be around that energy. That's traumatic for me. But then, yeah, it's like in Egypt, it is so interesting. Like, if I say I'm a virgin there, they're still kind of misogynistic, and like, they would like really respect me and treat me with like a lot of care, but then none of them would fuck with me ever, because nobody worldwide universally wants to deflower a virgin, because they know it's not the romanticized story. The reality is that virgins are emotionally needy. They'll get attached because all these new feelings are coming up in them for the first time. And so, yeah, what our moms taught us was social currency, which is holding on to your virginity, is actually terrible currency in North America. Maybe being sexually exclusive or sexually like there's a difference between being a virgin and or like only having sex in a relationship or only having sex in contained situations. Those are two very different things. And I think, like, I don't care for virginity at all, but I do care for safeguarded spiritual sex, that is under that's at a certain level, a certain standard that needs to be met before you actually go there with someone. That's my belief right now, which kind of is Islamic if you think about it, but it's very different. It's different than virginity and repression and ignorance and lack of exploration and lack of getting out there and trying things, and then therefore believing that no matter how many times you tell a virgin or an incel that their worth is not tied to their sexual desirability, nobody is going to believe you until they experience it. You need to be in bed, one time when someone attracted to someone and someone's attracted to you and they're looking at you for you to really believe that you are sexually desirable,
Absolutely. And I agree. And I will say, when I started dating in LA, when I first moved out here, I was not looking for hookups. I had decided I wasn't going to wait until marriage to have sex, but I also wanted to keep my body count low, quote unquote. What does that even mean?
Right.
And I only wanted to have sex in the constraints of a relationship.
Right.
And then it started getting impossible. 5 years later, at 28 years old, it's the pandemic. And I start dating this guy who is 100% in the closet, by the way. I mean, Jesus. We date during the pandemic, COVID summer 2020, for about 3 months. And dating became very easy for me during COVID because everyone was social distancing. So the first few dates, I would go on hikes with guys. It would be a social distance walk.
Right.
So we weren't even kissing because everyone was scared of getting COVID.
Right. COVID was very Sharia coded, very Muslim friendly, very virgin friendly. So, okay. So you're on all these halal dates basically under the guise of COVID.
Yeah, I really fell for this guy. We'll call him Steven.
Steven.
I really should be saying his real name because he deserves all the humiliation. But anyway, he's lying to his parents about seeing me because his parents are old. And so he was like, well, I don't want to give them COVID. And I said, well, then let's start seeing each other. I actually, and I ended up telling him I was a virgin. And he's like, oh, okay. Okay, whatever. I don't remember. I mean, we obviously kissed, made out after, the several dates, because when we decided, okay, we won't see other people during COVID. And then he was also very flaky. So, he was very playing with my emotions. And that's when you're a virgin. Oh no, he didn't text me back. I'm gonna cry and listen to sad country music. I don't know why country music, it's the Midwest in me. But yeah, and so basically we date for about 3 months. Oh my God, I remember this night like it's like a tattoo on, ugh. Anyway, so I'm 27. No, I turned 28 at this point. It's October of 2020. And we're discussing having sex and like talking about, he was like, yeah, our first time is going to be gentle lovemaking. It's going to be, he's selling me this idea for when I'm ready. Cause I'm like, Steven, I'm at a point where I'm ready. I was like, bruh, I'm 28 years old. I have given so many blowjobs. Yeah, by the way, yeah, that's another thing about all this LA failing dating. I ended up just kind of doing a lot of oral sex with guys. And so, it's interesting when people ask if I've had my hoe phase, quote unquote, because I feel like I kind of did.
Right.
Just not with my vagina,
Right.
Just with a different hole. Anyway. So, we'd done that. And one night he texts me and he texts me a dick pic. And he's like, are you still on your period or do you want to fuck tonight? And so romantic, am I right? And I was just like, yo, I just want to start having sex. I'm 28,
and this is supposed to be your
on.
First time, and he and he says it's gonna be sweet lovemaking, and then he slides in that way. That's the energy he's coming in with.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, come over. Fuck it, I'm tired. Like, he comes over. I wash my sheets anyway, and then I notice his energy is very. It's okay, whatever, we do the oral sex and everything. And then I'm like, I'm ready. It's like in the movies, like, I'm ready to be penetrated. And he tries to put his dick in me and he can't get hard. He can't get it up. And I was like, oh my God, do I have vaginismus? Because I'd read about vaginismus. And, I was like, oh my God. And anyway, he can't do it. And then he gets up and puts his pants on. And I'm like, oh, dude, let's just do other stuff. Let's just cuddle. Let's just watch. That's fine. Like, we can do it next time. I wasn't, like, sad about it. And he's like, no, I have to go. I was like, why? Like, don't you at least want to hang out with me? Did you just come over to have sex? And I chase him out of my house. I'm like, wait, talk to me. He's like, honestly, you know how when guys tell you that when you tell guys they're a virgin, they freak out? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, it's hitting me and I'm starting to understand it. He's like, I just want someone who knows what they're doing, who's experienced in bed. I don't like to teach. And I was like, by the way, all of this, I didn't ask him to teach me anything. This was him not being able to get hard. And he was projecting that onto me. This is your fault. You're a virgin. I'm sorry. My virginity has nothing to do with your blood flow down there, sir. And then I was like, do you still want to see me? He goes, of course. And I go, are you just saying that? He goes, yeah, maybe I am. He gets into his car, drives off, texts me. I'm bawling my eyes out at this point. I'm left there standing in my pajamas out in the middle of the night as the car drives away. I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like getting emotional thinking about it. Just in my head, this rerun of all the, but you were a virgin, you're a treasure. Every guy wants that. All of just just everything I've been through, from these Tinder dates to my mom, to my high school, to Islam, to Christianity, to everything was just like washing over me as tears just spilled down my face. And I remember just bawling my eyes out in my apartment. My roommate came out like, what the fuck happened? And I FaceTimed my best friend, and my best friend, to make me feel better, started laughing and saying, babe, he doesn't know how to have sex.
That's the irony, right? Like, yeah, it's that he's the one who failed, and he's trying to make you feel bad.
Exactly. And then I get this text from him saying, sorry for, running off, and sorry for, everything. He said, I'm trying to think of what he said in the texts that really stood out to me. He said, I should have stopped when you said it was going to be gentle lovemaking. I'm like, you said it was going to be gentle lovemaking. And he's like, I don't like to feel trapped, you won't hear from me again.
Making it seem like he's doing you a favor. Meanwhile, he's an avoidant asshole. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know that this was my first experience as well, ever attempting to have sex. It was with a best friend of mine. I was like in love with him for a year and a half. Definitely closeted, definitely never gonna come out ever. And he also couldn't get hard. But the thing is, I did have vaginismus, but he took full blame. He took full responsibility. He said he was too in his head, and that he sees me as too much of a friend, blah, blah, blah. And he is attracted to me, but whatever. But it's like, you're gay for sure. But of course, in the moment, I was so traumatized. Like, how do you not take it as it's your fault? Like, or you're not, I guess they make it seem like you're not a sexy dominatrix enough to arouse them, and that's why they couldn't get hard, because they're thinking about how they're gonna have to take care of you or something afterwards.
Exactly. And Selma, I was depressed and broken for 3 months after that.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And get this. So I cry and I post something on my Instagram story, like something vague, like a picture that says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Right.
And then my aunt, for my mom's sister, the cool European, whatever, she the European Iranians, who, by the way, my mom's side of my family shamed me for wearing a bikini on Instagram. And my religious dad's side never did that.
Interesting.
So I already, again, that juxtaposition, I feel, that's why I've always somewhat felt closer to my father's religious side, because my cousins are so open-minded and accepting, even when they were hijabis, even though they don't drink. Whereas the European side was all, the reputation, the clothes, be careful.
So the misogyny and purity culture still strong on the non-religious side, on your mom's side.
Yeah. And then my aunt messages me and says, are you okay? And again, I'm close to my aunt, and I said, no, this happened, let's FaceTime. I FaceTime my aunt because I'm like, well, she's gonna make me feel better, because she has a lot of experience sexually.
Right. And
she's like, how are you 28 and have never slept with anyone? Stop telling men you're a virgin. Men are scared of that. It's so embarrassing, basically shaming me for being open about being a virgin. I'm like, bruh. She's like, yeah, he probably went home and jerked off. I was like, dude, what do you guys want from me, man?
Yeah, am I allowed to wear a bikini or not? And now you're yelling at me for saying that I'm a virgin, even though before I was told that this is the highest honor?
Yeah. Bro,
It's a
and
mess.
why does it feel like everyone's grabbing me by the pussy except me?
Right. Except that the man that I want to be grabbing me by my pussy.
Exactly. But honestly, you know, and I was just again blaming myself, because it's also like I didn't want it to be a situation where am I going to lie to someone and say I wasn't a virgin? Because what if I get hurt? Like, what if they physically hurt me, you know? So for me, I wanted the guy to know. And I'm like, I'm 28, dude. Like, I was also getting upset with the stigma of virginity. Like, I even went as far, I was like, that's a microaggression. They're racist against Middle Eastern people. Like,
Right.
Sorry, we're not disgusting and fuck everything. Whatever. I was just tired of it. A few months passed by. I'm on a dating app. I match with this guy from Colombia. I'm attracted to him. He's attracted to me. We go on a few dates. Very respectful, very open-minded, very nice. And we're doing oral sex. We're hooking up. And he said, yeah, just tell me when to stop. And anyway, after we do oral sex, we're like in bed and we're talking. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm a virgin, but I don't feel like at 28 I'm going to be emotional over a guy. I'm not a child. The reason I think the virgins get all this stigma is I do think, and I'm not saying this can't happen to women who lose their virginity in their, like, you know, 30s, but, you know, when you're in high school or college, I could see how that is extra emotional because you're so young.
Right.
You do not know how to process.
Right.
So I could see that, but I don't think it's fair to put that stigma on everyone who's a virgin.
Right.
Because I was like, look, I'm 28. This guy broke my heart and he didn't even have sex with me. I'm pretty sure I can handle whatever.
Right. That's the thing. Like, you can have sexual experiences with people. You could have sex with people and not even remember their name. Like, it's not about that. It's about, like, the emotional connection. But I mean, for me, like, it's still taking me time to figure out how not to trigger my abandonment wounds. Like, I think it's like the having sex with someone and then it's really good, who immediately ghosts you. That is very traumatic, you know? But
yeah.
I think you can, like, if you set it up where you go on a few dates and they're respectful, you can kind of create a situation where that won't happen ideally, and it's safer for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Colombian guy, he was like, thank you for being transparent with me. And he's like, if you are ready, I'm down. And so we did, and it was awesome. It didn't hurt. His dick was big. He was good at what he was doing. He kept asking if I was okay. It felt really good. It was amazing. And I don't regret waiting till I was 28 to have sex with him.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm thinking about him the next day. And, you know, I liked him, but it wasn't like, you know, eventually when we stopped dating a few months later, I wasn't crying over him. I wasn't broken over him. I was like, no, thank you. Next. I'm actually happy to start now I'm ready for my whole phase.
Right,
you know?
right. Because finally it was on your terms, and you started your journey. You took it into your own hands. And I think, like, how did it feel finally where you were in control and everyone else's voices started to dim? Like, did you feel your authenticity rise? And I mean, do you feel, I'm on a healing journey, I'm sure you're on a healing journey, like, do you feel like there's more for you to heal from? Do you feel like you've come a long way? Like, what can you say about that?
I do feel that. I do feel like I've come a long way. I felt strong. I felt powerful. And I, for the first time, was like, my self-worth is not attached to my virginity. Fuck it. I have sex. I enjoyed it. And now I'm going to go do something else. Having sex is not something it's something that I do. It's not something that I am.
Right.
And that's the problem. It shouldn't be attached to who you are as a person. It's an activity. Like, I eat egg rolls, you know, I run on the treadmill. It's an activity that I do. That's not, oh, she's a runner, I guess. But, you know, weird, you know, that finally felt free. I finally felt like, just like you said, it's on my terms.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I tried to have a hoe phase. I really did. Didn't really work out. Again, I mean, it was just kind of with guys who, you know, I didn't really enjoy. I don't know if I'll ever be the hookup. I mean, best sex of my life so far was with a hookup. And when he went and got a girlfriend, did not cry, did not get upset. Worst sex of my life was with one of my exes, cried for 3 months over him. And it's like, why? And it goes to show it really is an emotional thing. But I will say, I have never been in a spot where I've quote unquote made love before, but I really want to experience that. And again, I feel like I know myself so much better now. at 32, but I also want to, I just don't know where I am with hookup culture as much, I guess you could say, because it does feel like with today's dating constraints, it almost feels like it leads with sex. And then you just fall into a relationship. And that's something that I'm kind of trying to still work my way around.
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many different examples out there, but I know that the mainstream pop culture, like, cool one is to seemingly be detached and to have sex as frequently as possible because, you know, people in Iran can't or whatever. But, like, the reality is it's energetic and it's very sacred. And, I mean, that's how I see it, at least. And you determining the terms in which you engage with someone sexually and to what degree, and really understanding, like, your limitations and your safeguards, I think is the best thing you could possibly do for yourself. Is the most empowered thing, because you can do whatever you want. You can go out travel one night, have a little bit of fun. I love hooking up with someone when you travel, because it's like you're really never going to see them again, and you know that, and so it's just like a spur of the moment, something fun or whatever, you know what I mean? But then it is, I think sex is like money, in that we all interact with it. Like, everyone, I wouldn't call myself a money user, I wouldn't call you a money user or a spender or receiver. Like, it's just is what we do in this world. But everybody has a relationship to money. Everybody has a different relationship to money. There might be general themes and trends depending on how you grew up. It's the same with sex, right? Like, everybody has a different relationship to sex. Your own relationship to sex is going to change throughout your life, depending on the experiences you have, the place where you're at, right? So,
and can I just add something?
Yeah.
Since I got my period, I have been horny as fuck. So imagine how much I was dying those 18 years.
Right.
I still am. You know, it's very hard to find a guy who can keep up with me sexually, I'll tell you that.
Girl, I relate to this, because it's like being sexually repressed for this long, you're like a dam about to burst, you know? You're like a 15-year-old horny boy, like someone, yeah, I understand completely. I'm like, do not open Pandora's box unless you're ready to fuck me like every day for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, your libido, you better you better be able to keep up.
The toys, the butt stuff, I've watched everything on Pornhub. Like, come on. You know, I mean, you better be in it to win it, baby. Because I am not.
We're gonna wrap up now, but what would you say to Muslim girls who might find themselves or see themselves in the place that you were at? Like, what would you tell them? What wisdom or advice would you want to give them?
That sex is something that you do. It's not something that you are. That there's no shame in being hypersexual or asexual. That whatever you choose to do, whether it's safely and consensually hooking up, or waiting for marriage, or only doing it in the constraints of a relationship, whatever you want to do, it must be on your terms, not on anybody else's. Make sure it's because it's what you want, not because of what your parents want, not because of what your community wants, not because of what society tells you it's supposed to be.
Not because of what he wants.
Exactly, that too.
Okay, thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you so much for such an uplifting and healing conversation, and for being here, for being honest, brave, vulnerable. We're so lucky to have had you with us today. Your story is a testament to survival, resilience, and faithful self-love. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. And to anybody who's listening, if you were assaulted, you're not alone. And if this episode resonated with you, or if you're a Muslim woman with your own secret to share, please reach out to us at thesecretsexlivesofmuslimwomen@gmail.com. And remember, your story matters even when it's been silenced, especially when it's been silenced. I'm your host, Salma Hindi. This podcast is co-produced by Sarah Hussein, and we are recording live from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you.